The emergency council room was filled with worried faces. Representatives from 847 different species sat in their designated seats, watching the holographic display at the center of the chamber. The display showed another world dying. Red markers indicated destroyed cities. Gray zones showed where all life had been erased. This was the 23rd planet to fall in 6 months. Ambassador Min-Jun Park sat quietly in the human section. His dark eyes studied the other delegates carefully. He had learned much in his 5 years representing Earth at the Galactic Federation headquarters. He had learned that most species thought humans were boring, not dangerous, not impressive, just ordinary. Humanity had joined the Federation 200 years ago, and most aliens still barely noticed them. The Supreme Commander of Federation forces was speaking now. The Vex-Thor was a being made of living crystal, ancient beyond human understanding. Its voice resonated through the chamber like wind chimes in a storm. "The Kruthax have destroyed another colony world," the Vex-Thor said. "Our best fleets engaged them according to standard military doctrine. The Kruthax adapted to every weapon we used. They countered every strategy. Our forces were eliminated in 4 hours." A delegate from the Zorith species stood up, his scales rattling with fear. "How is this possible? We have fought wars for 50,000 years. Our military knowledge is perfect. Why does nothing work against these invaders?" Min-Jun leaned forward slightly. He had been noticing something during these meetings. Something the others had missed because they were too frightened to see the pattern. Every species that fell had done exactly what the Federation military doctrine told them to do. They followed the ancient strategies that had worked for millennia. They used the approved weapons. They fought the approved way. And they all died. "Perhaps," Min-Jun said quietly, "the Kruthax already know your strategies." The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the human section. The Vex-Thor commander tilted its crystalline head. "Explain yourself, human." Min-Jun stood slowly. He was not a tall man, and his simple gray suit made him look even more ordinary among the elaborate clothing of other species. "I have watched 23 worlds fall. Each time our forces did exactly what military doctrine required. Each time, the Kruthax seemed to know what we would do before we did it. Maybe they are not adapting. Maybe they already studied your tactics long before they arrived." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully. Others looked insulted that a human would question 50,000 years of military tradition. Captain Seo Yon Chong, the senior human military representative, stood beside Min-Jun. She was a compact woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "The ambassador raises an important point. The Kruthax response time is too fast for real-time adaptation. They act as if they already know what you will do. And I suppose humans have a better idea?" The Zorith delegate's voice dripped with sarcasm. Min-Jun glanced at Seo Yon. She gave him a tiny nod. He took a breath and spoke carefully. 80 years ago, before we joined the Federation, Earth faced something similar. Ships appeared in our system. They attacked without warning. They seemed unstoppable." He paused. "But they left. The threat went away." Every delegate in the chamber leaned forward. The Vex-Thor commander's crystalline body flickered with intense light, a sign of great interest. "You defeated them. How? What weapons did you use?" "I did not say we defeated them," Min-Jun replied calmly. "I said they went away." "What did you do?" the Vex-Thor demanded. "Something that worked." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions in 100 different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Through the chaos, Min-Jun heard the same questions repeated. "How did you do it? What technology did you use? What strategy? Share your knowledge." Captain Seo Yon raised her hand for silence. Slowly, the chamber quieted. When she spoke, her voice was respectful but firm. The human government has discussed this matter carefully. We have decided that we cannot share the details of what happened 80 years ago. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the Zorith delegate exploded from his seat. You cannot? Your species represents a fraction of 1% of Federation population. You occupy 3 minor systems. You have no right to withhold information that could save the galaxy. We have every right, Seoyon said calmly, and we are exercising it. The Vexthor commander moved forward, its massive crystalline body glowing with barely controlled anger. Explain your reasoning. Why would you hide knowledge that could save billions of lives? Minjun met the ancient being's gaze without flinching. Because some knowledge is dangerous to share. Because speaking certain truths aloud can make things worse. Because we are trying to protect you. Protect us? The Vexthor's laughter sounded like breaking glass. Humans have been part of this Federation for 2 centuries. You have contributed nothing remarkable. Your technology is adequate. Your military is small. Your culture is curious, but unremarkable. And now you claim to protect us? Yes, Minjun said simply. For a long moment, the Vexthor studied the human. Then it spoke more quietly. You are serious. You truly believe that silence is protection. We know it is. The Vexthor turned to address the full council. The human delegation refuses to cooperate with the survival of the Federation. I propose we take measures to encourage their cooperation. Trade restrictions, diplomatic isolation, if necessary, stronger methods. Many delegates voiced agreement. But some, Minjun noticed, remained silent. The elder species, the ones who had survived the longest, watched the humans with new interest. One old Kelsar delegate, whose species had existed for 30,000 years, caught Minjun's eye and gave a slow nod of understanding. As the council dissolved into angry debates about how to pressure humanity, Captain Seoyon leaned close to Minjun. They are going to make this very difficult for us, she whispered. I know. And we still cannot tell them? If we tell them, we might doom them. Better they hate us than face what we faced. Seoyon nodded. The others need to know. I will send word to Earth. Tell Commander Kim to prepare the fleet. Tell Dr. Choi to start monitoring deep space communications. If the Federation pushes too hard, if they investigate too deeply, they might attract attention. Attention from what? Asked a young Zorith aide who had overheard them. Minjun and Seoyon looked at each other. Then Minjun smiled politely at the aide. That, he said, is exactly the question you should never ask. And if you value your species' survival, you will convince your superiors to stop asking it too. The aide backed away, suddenly uncertain. Above them, through the transparent dome of the council chamber, the stars shone peacefully. But Minjun knew better. Somewhere in that vast darkness, things were moving. Things that had noticed the Krithax long ago. Things that the Federation, in its pride and ancient power, had never learned to fear. Things that humanity had learned to hide from. And the hiding only worked if no one spoke the secret aloud. The pressure began within days. First came the trade restrictions. Federation suppliers suddenly found reasons why they could not deliver goods to human colonies. Ships carrying human exports were delayed at every checkpoint. Then came the diplomatic isolation. Invitations to councils were withdrawn. Human representatives found themselves excluded from important meetings. Commander Ji-hoon Kim stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defender, watching the latest reports. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had commanded Earth's defensive fleet for 10 years. He had never seen the Federation act this way. Another bribe attempt, sir, his communications officer reported. This time from the Kelsar. They are offering technology worth billions of credits if we share information about the event 80 years ago. Refuse it, Ji-hoon said. politely. That is the fifth bribe this week, and we have had 3 direct threats from different species. I know. Ji-hoon studied the star map in front of him. Human ships were scattered across Federation space, helping with evacuations, delivering supplies to refugee worlds, doing everything they could to assist. And still the Federation treated them like criminals for refusing to share one secret. On the planet New Geneva, Dr. Hana Choi sat in her office, reviewing data. She was a xenosociologist, someone who studied how different alien species behaved and interacted. She had been analyzing the Krathax attacks for months now, and she had discovered something interesting. Her assistant, a young human named David, knocked on her door. "Doctor, the Federation Council has requested another briefing. They want to know if you have learned anything new about the Krathax." "I have," Hana said. She was a small woman with long black hair tied back in a practical bun. Her office was filled with displays showing attack patterns, species characteristics, and technological signatures. "Tell them I will present my findings tomorrow, but David, prepare yourself. They will not like what I have to say." The next day, Hana stood before the Federation Council. She projected a holographic display showing the 23 destroyed worlds. "I have identified a pattern," she announced. "The Krathax are not randomly attacking Federation worlds. They are specifically targeting species that use certain types of technology." The Vexthor commander leaned forward. "What types?" "Advanced scanning systems, deep space observation arrays, quantum communication networks. Species that actively search and map empty regions of space." She paused. "They are hunting species that look too closely at things that should not be observed." "That makes no sense," the Zorith delegate protested. "Why would advanced technology attract attack?" "I did not say it attracts attack," Hana replied calmly. "I said it attracts attention." The Vexthor's crystalline body flickered with confusion. "There is a difference?" "Yes, a significant one." Hana would not elaborate further, no matter how many questions the delegates shouted. While the Federation Council grew more frustrated, several species began secret investigations into Earth's history. The Zix were particularly good at data recovery. They were small, gray-skinned beings with 6 arms and brilliant minds for finding lost information. A team of Zix researchers worked for weeks, carefully reconstructing Earth's records from 80 years ago. They found gaps, large gaps, entire years where military records simply did not exist, medical databases with missing entries, communication logs that stopped and then started again with no explanation. "It is not that the data was deleted," the lead Zix researcher told his team. "It is as if humanity collectively decided not to record certain events, as if they agreed, all at once, to have a period of selective amnesia. They found fragments, emergency broadcasts cut off mid-sentence, military deployment orders with destinations marked as classified, evacuation procedures for entire cities, and one phrase repeated in the fragments they recovered: do not engage, do not make contact, do not let them know we are here." The Zix brought their findings to the Federation Council. Ambassador Min-jun and Captain Seo-yeon were called to explain. "You tried to hide," the Vexthor said. 80 years ago, you went dark. You stopped using advanced technology. You silenced your communications." "Yes," Min-jun said. "From what? What were you hiding from?" "That is the question we cannot answer." Throughout all of this, human behavior remained remarkably consistent. They continued helping with Federation defense using conventional weapons. Human medical ships evacuated wounded from battle zones. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed stations. Commander Ji-hoon's fleet fought alongside Federation forces against the Krathax, never retreating, always professional. But they would not share their secret. Late one night, the Vexthor commander requested a private meeting with Ambassador Min-jun. They met in a secure room, just the two of them. "I need to understand," the Vexthor said quietly. My species has led this federation for 50,000 years. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have witnessed supernovas and the birth of new worlds. Nothing has truly frightened us in all that time. Min-Jun waited, sensing the ancient being had more to say. But I watched you humans during the last council meeting. I watched your faces when we discussed the Krithaks. You are not afraid of them. You pity them. The Vexthor's voice dropped to barely a whisper. What in the void could make those invaders pitiable? What could be worse than unstoppable destroyers of worlds? Min-Jun met the ancient being's gaze. For a moment he considered telling the truth. Then he remembered why silence was necessary. You are correct, he said finally. We do pity them. But if I tell you why, you will become what they are. Running, desperate, noticed. Noticed by what? I cannot say. The Vexthor was silent for a long time. Then it spoke with something Min-Jun had never heard in its voice before. Fear. You are not protecting yourselves by keeping this secret. You are protecting us. You genuinely believe that our ignorance is our safety. I do not believe it. I know it. How can ignorance be safer than knowledge? Min-Jun stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Commander, answer me this. In all your 50,000 years, has your species ever encountered something you could not understand? Something that made you want to stop looking, stop asking questions, stop learning? Never. Knowledge is always better than ignorance. Then you have been fortunate. You have never met something that treats attention like a beacon, something that notices when you notice it. Min-Jun opened the door. Pray you never do, and if you value your civilization, stop investigating what happened to Earth 80 years ago. Stop asking questions. Stop making noise about human secrets. Why? What will happen if we continue? Min-Jun looked back one last time. You might attract their attention, and if they look this way, if they see that you know that you are asking the right questions, then they will notice you too. And then nothing I can do will save you. The ambassador left. The Vexthor commander stood alone in the secure room, and for the first time in 50,000 years, it felt something it had never experienced before. It felt afraid of the dark. The Zix research team worked through the night. They had recovered more fragments from Earth's hidden history. The lead researcher, a being named Xylith, had become obsessed with solving the mystery. His 6 arms moved rapidly across multiple screens as he pieced together corrupted data files. I found something, he announced to his team. A partial video log. It is badly damaged, but I can restore enough to see what it contains. The image flickered onto the main screen. A young woman in a military uniform appeared. The timestamp showed it was from 80 years ago. The woman looked exhausted. Her eyes were red from crying or lack of sleep or both. Her name tag read Lieutenant Yoon-Seo Lee. Her voice was shaking as she spoke. This is Lieutenant Lee, recording emergency log entry. Day 47 of the event. I am one of the few officers still alive. The entities responded to our quantum scanning array. Captain Martinez ordered a full scan of the approaching objects. The scan activated. 3 seconds later, every ship that had powered up its advanced sensors was destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled. Completely erased from existence. The lieutenant's hands trembled as she continued. They are aware when we observe them. The captain realized this after losing half our fleet. New orders are in effect immediately. All advanced scanning systems are to be shut down. All quantum arrays offline. All deep space observation equipment deactivated. We are going dark. Complete communications blackout except for short-range emergency bands. She looked directly at the camera. If anyone finds this log, understand what I am saying. They notice attention. They detect when they are being observed with advanced technology. The captain believes they are not attacking us. They are defending themselves against our observation. We have to become invisible. We have to make them forget we exist. The video ended. Xylith and his team sat in stunned silence. "Observation triggers the response," one researcher whispered. "The more advanced the scanning, the more attention it draws." "We need to tell the Council immediately," another said. They brought the video log to an emergency Federation Council meeting. The chamber was packed. Every major species had sent representatives. The damaged video played on the central display. When it ended, the room was completely silent. The Vex-Thor commander finally spoke. "The Kruthax are not invaders. They are fleeing, and they attack us because we notice them, because our advanced sensors track them across space." Ambassador Min-Jun sat quietly, his face showing no emotion. Captain Seoyon stood beside him, equally still. The Zorith delegate turned to stare at the humans. "You knew. You have known this entire time." "We knew that speaking the truth could make things worse," Min-Jun said carefully. "Worse than worlds being destroyed?" "Yes, much worse." The Vex-Thor commander moved toward the human section. Its crystalline body glowed with barely controlled fury. "Explain yourself. The Kruthax flee from something. They run and destroy anything that notices them. We understand this now. What is worse than that?" Captain Seoyon stood. Her voice was calm, but carried clearly through the chamber. "You are looking in the wrong direction. The Kruthax are not your problem. They are a symptom of your problem. And yes, we know what the disease is." "Tell us," the Vex-Thor demanded. "No. We have the right to know what threatens us." "You have the right to survive," Min-Jun said quietly. "Those are not the same thing." A Kelsar elder stood up. She was ancient. Her skin wrinkled and her movements slow. But her voice was strong. "I begin to understand. Humanity, you made the entities leave by becoming uninteresting. You stopped using technology that would notice them. You hid. And it worked because you never spoke the full truth aloud. Because speaking, it would mean others would know. Others would ask questions. Others would look." Min-Jun nodded slowly. "You are wise, Elder. But now we have investigated. Now we have recovered your records. Now we know to look. Have we already attracted the wrong attention by asking?" The question hung in the air like a physical weight. Every delegate felt it. The possibility that by investigating human secrets, by demanding answers, they had already made a terrible mistake. "Are they already watching us because we asked?" the Vex-Thor said quietly. Captain Seoyon looked at the commander. Her expression was sad. "We do not know. We hope not. But every moment you continue asking questions, every transmission about this topic, every database search for the truth increases the risk. Then tell us how to stop. Tell us how to protect ourselves." "We can show you," Min-Jun said, "but we cannot tell you why. You have to trust us. You have to follow instructions without understanding the reason. You have to implement protection measures without knowing what you are protected from." The Zorith delegate laughed bitterly. "You expect us to blindly follow human instructions? To change our entire civilization based on your word alone? Yes, that is insane. It is survival." The Federation Council erupted into chaos. Half the delegates shouted their agreement. They were frightened enough to accept human help on any terms. The other half refused. They demanded full disclosure. They argued that implementing unknown strategies was impossible. How could they protect themselves if they did not understand the threat? Dr. Hana Choi stepped forward. She had been sitting quietly in the observer section. Now she walked to the center of the chamber. "May I speak?" she asked. The Vex-Thor commander gestured for silence. "Proceed, Doctor." Hana turned slowly, looking at each delegate. "Many of you have species that are great explorers. You map space. You catalog stars and planets. You search the void for new discoveries. The Zix, in particular, have mapped the empty regions between galaxies." The Zix researchers shifted uncomfortably. "You found anomalies, did you not? Places where your instruments registered mass, but your telescopes saw nothing. regions of space that seemed empty but were not. You published these findings. You sent the data throughout the Federation. You taught everyone where these anomalies were located. One of the Zix researchers stood up. His voice was shaking. We thought they were dark matter clusters, concentrations of mass we could not see. It is a normal phenomenon. Are you certain? Hana asked gently. Did you ever send probes to investigate closely? Did you use advanced quantum scanners to examine these clusters? Yes, 3 probes. They all stopped transmitting when they got close. We assumed equipment failure. Or they noticed that you noticed them, Hana said quietly. And you taught them where you are. You gave them your exact coordinates. You mapped their locations and published it across the galaxy. You attracted their attention by studying them. The Zix researcher sat down slowly. His gray skin had gone even paler. This is speculation, the Zorith delegate protested. You have no proof that these dark matter anomalies are related to any threat. Before Hana could respond, an alarm sounded. An urgent communication came through to the council chamber. A Federation observer ship reported that the Tormach homeworld had gone silent. The Vexthor commander pulled up the data. The Tormach are a stubborn species. They announced yesterday that they would continue their deep space research regardless of human warnings. They transmitted a detailed quantum scan of an empty region of space. The observer ship's report continued. A science vessel had arrived at the Tormach homeworld to investigate the silence. What they found was impossible to explain. The planet was intact. The cities stood undamaged. The ships in orbit were still there, systems still running. But every living being was gone. 30 billion Tormach simply vanished. No signs of struggle, no bodies, no evidence of weapon use. Every person and animal on the planet had disappeared. The report included video from the science vessel. It showed empty streets, abandoned vehicles, a meal still sitting on a table, steam rising from hot food. Everything was there except the people. Where did they go? Someone whispered. They did not go anywhere, Captain Seo-Yon said. Her voice was heavy with sorrow. They were taken, quietly, efficiently, without resistance. This is what happens when you are noticed. The Federation Council sat in absolute silence. Every delegate stared at the images from the Tormach homeworld, empty but intact, silent but undamaged. A ghost world. The Vexthor commander turned to the humans. Its voice had lost all its anger, replaced by something the ancient being had never felt before. Pure terror. We agree to your terms. We will follow your instructions exactly. No questions, no demands for explanation. Just tell us what to do. Around the chamber, other delegates were nodding. The Kelser elder had tears on her wrinkled face. The Zix researchers huddled together, their 6 arms wrapped around each other in fear. Ambassador Min-Jun looked at them all with sad eyes. We tried to spare you this fear. We have lived with it for 80 years. Every day, wondering if we are still hidden. Every night, hoping they have forgotten about us. Now you understand why some secrets should stay secret. Now you know why we refuse to answer your questions. He stood to leave. Captain Seo-Yon and Dr. Hana Choi followed him. At the door, Min-Jun turned back one last time. We will help you hide. We will teach you to be invisible. But understand this truth. From this moment forward, you will never feel safe again. You will always wonder if the darkness is empty or if something is watching from it. That is the price of knowledge. Welcome to the fear that humanity has carried alone. The door closed behind the human delegation. In the council chamber, the most powerful species in the galaxy sat together and trembled. Engineer Dae-Hyun Song stood before the Federation Council 3 days after the Tormach incident. He was a practical man who preferred solving problems to discussing them. He had spent 30 years designing defensive systems for human colonies. Now he would help the Federation hide. We cannot explain why these measures work, he began. We can only tell you what to do. If you follow our instructions exactly, you have a chance. If you demand explanations, if you question the reasoning, you will attract attention by making noise about the very thing you need to hide from." The Vexthor commander nodded. "We understand. Proceed." First, shut down all quantum observation arrays. Not reduce power, not limit their range. Shut them down completely. These systems observe reality at a level that draws attention. Around the chamber, some delegates looked uncomfortable. The Zorith representative raised a hand. "But these arrays are essential for navigation, for communication, for scientific research." "You will learn to navigate without them," Dae-hyun said. "You will communicate using slower methods. You will stop researching certain topics. That will set our civilization back centuries." "Yes, but you will survive those centuries." Dae-hyun's voice was not unkind, just firm. "Would you rather be advanced or alive?" The Zorith delegate sat down without another word. "Second, restrict faster-than-light communication to emergencies only. The more you broadcast across space, the more noise you make. The more noise you make, the more visible you become. Third, stop sending cultural signals into deep space. No more broadcasts meant for unknown alien civilizations. No more mapping of empty regions. No more probes sent to investigate anomalies. You will stop looking for things in the dark. Fourth, delete certain scientific databases. We will provide you with a list of specific research that must be erased, studies of void regions, measurements of unexplained mass concentrations, any research involving observation of empty space." A Kelsar scientist stood up, her old face showing distress. "You are asking us to destroy knowledge, to erase our own discoveries. This goes against everything the Federation represents." Dae-hyun nodded. "I know. We had to do the same thing 80 years ago. We burned our own libraries. We deleted our own research. We erased discoveries that our best scientists had spent lifetimes making. It hurt. We mourned the loss of knowledge. But we survived." He paused, looking around the chamber. "You can keep your pride and your knowledge and die. Or you can accept that some knowledge is too dangerous to keep. The choice is yours." The Kelsar scientist sat down slowly. Without waiting for full consensus, human teams began arriving at Federation facilities. They helped shut down quantum arrays. They scrubbed databases. They taught communication officers how to use older, slower, safer transmission methods. But not everyone agreed. Several species resisted. They continued their research in secret. They maintained their observation networks. They refused to accept that knowledge could be dangerous. The most vocal resistance came from the Tormak survivors. Not all Tormak had been on the homeworld when it happened. A few 100,000 lived in colonies and on space stations. They were angry, grieving, and determined to understand what had taken their world. Dr. Hana Choi met with a group of Tormak scientists in a secure facility. They were demanding answers. "Our entire species is gone," their leader said. His name was Vexcon. His large eyes were red from weeping. "You owe us an explanation. Tell us what took them." Hana looked at him with compassion. "I cannot. I am truly sorry for your loss. But speaking the truth will not bring them back. It will only endanger everyone else." "We have a right to know." "You have a right to be angry," Hana said gently. "You have a right to grieve. But you do not have a right to endanger the galaxy by demanding answers that will attract more attention." Vexcon stood abruptly. "You humans think you know everything. You think you are protecting us. But you are just controlling us, making us weak, making us afraid." "We are making you invisible," Hana said quietly. "And yes, we are making you afraid. Fear is what will keep you alive." The Tormak scientist left angrily. But Hana noticed that his hands were shaking. Despite his words, he was already afraid. He just did not want to admit it yet. Meanwhile, Commander Ji-Hoon Kim was dealing with a different problem. Multiple species had offered him bribes which he had refused. Now they were offering him threats. Perhaps something unfortunate happens to a human colony, an encrypted message from the Zorith military suggested. Perhaps then your people become more cooperative. Ji-Hoon brought the message to Captain Seo-yeon. They sat in his office aboard the Defender, looking at the words on the screen. "They are desperate," Seo-yeon said. "Desperate people do stupid things. Should we increase security on our colonies? No. That would show fear, show weakness." Seo-yeon thought for a moment. "Instead, send a message back. Tell them that if any human colony is harmed, we will immediately broadcast everything we know about the threat across all Federation frequencies. We will make sure everyone knows exactly what to look for in the dark. We will ensure maximum attention from the things that notice." Ji-Hoon stared at her. "You would doom the galaxy?" "No. But they do not know that we would not. Sometimes the threat of mutual destruction is the only language bullies understand." She smiled grimly. "Earth learned that lesson centuries before we met the Federation." The message was sent. The threats stopped. 6 months passed. The Federation slowly, painfully implemented human protocols. Quantum arrays went dark across known space. Cultural broadcasts ceased. Research into empty regions stopped. The galaxy became quieter. And the Krathax attacks stopped. The fleeing aliens no longer noticed the Federation. They passed through known space without attacking. They continued running from whatever chased them, but they no longer destroyed Federation worlds along their path. The Vexthor commander requested a private meeting with Captain Seo-yeon. They met in the same secure room where Min-jun had spoken with the ancient being months earlier. "It worked," the Vexthor said. "The attacks have ceased." "For now," Seo-yeon replied. "As long as you stay quiet. As long as you remain uninteresting." "You were right. We sleep less now. Every species in the Federation has nightmares about empty space that is not empty." Seo-yeon nodded. "We have had those nightmares for 80 years. You get used to them, or you learn to function despite them. Did your species ever learn the full truth? What actually exists in the void?" "Some of us know. Most do not. We decided that the fewer people who know details, the safer we all are. Even thoughts can be dangerous if enough people share them." The Vexthor was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, I must ask you something. The Tormach world. They were not just killed, were they? They were harvested. Taken. What was done with them?" "I cannot answer that. Cannot or will not. Both." Seo-yeon's face showed genuine sorrow. "Commander, imagine the worst thing you can think of. The most terrible fate you can conceive. Then imagine something worse than that. Then imagine that your imagination is still too limited to understand what actually happens. That is why we do not speak of it. Because the reality is worse than any explanation we could give." The Vexthor's crystalline body flickered. "You have carried this knowledge for 80 years. Your species has lived with this fear, this uncertainty, completely alone. Why did you not tell us when you joined the Federation? Because you would not have believed us. You would have investigated. You would have looked. And they would have noticed. We needed the Federation to discover the danger naturally, to see it happen, to be frightened enough to listen without asking why. That was wise. Cruel, but wise. Survival often is." The commander stood to leave, then paused. "Captain, one more question. When the threat came to Earth 80 years ago, how many people died before you learned to hide?" Seo-yeon's jaw tightened. 400 million. We lost entire cities in 3 days. My grandmother was one of them, taken from her apartment in Seoul. My mother was just a child. She remembers my grandmother's scream cutting off mid-sound. Then nothing. Just an empty room and a breakfast that never got eaten. I am sorry. So are we. That is why we worked so hard to spare the Federation the same lesson. We failed with the Tormach, but we saved everyone else. She met the commander's gaze. And we will continue to save you, but only if you trust us. Only if you stop asking questions. The Vexthor left the room. Seo Yon sat alone for a long time, remembering a grandmother she had never met, remembering the day humanity learned that they were not alone in the universe, and that being noticed was the most dangerous thing that could happen. 1 year after the Tormach incident, the galaxy had changed. The Federation continued its work, but quietly now. Ships still traveled between stars, but they moved carefully. Scientists still studied the universe, but they avoided looking too closely at certain things. The great civilization that had dominated the galaxy for 50,000 years had learned humility. Ambassador Minjun stood in his office on New Geneva, looking at reports from across Federation space. No new attacks, no disappearances. The Krethax had moved beyond Federation territory, still fleeing, still running from whatever chased them. Captain Seo Yan entered his office without knocking. They had worked together long enough that formality seemed unnecessary. "The Council wants to thank us formally," she said. "They are planning a ceremony, recognition for saving the Federation." "We did not save them. We just taught them to hide." "It is the same thing." She sat down across from his desk. "Minjun, do you ever wonder if we did the right thing? We could have told them everything from the beginning, warned them before they joined the Federation, maybe prevented all of this." Minjun shook his head slowly. "They would not have believed us. Imagine if 80 years ago, when we first made contact with the Federation, we had told them, there are things in the empty space between galaxies, ancient things, hungry things. Do not look for them." They would have investigated immediately. The warning itself would have attracted attention. "I suppose you are right," Seo Yon smiled sadly. "Sometimes the only way to teach someone to fear fire is to let them get burned." We tried to keep the burn as small as possible. Dr. Hana Choi was giving a classified briefing to a new organization, the Silent Watch, they called it, a joint human federation group dedicated to monitoring for species that accidentally made themselves visible. They worked in secret, erasing traces, redirecting attention, keeping the galaxy quiet. The room was full of carefully selected individuals from different species. The Vexthor commander was there, the Kelsar elder, a Zix researcher who had learned his lesson about publishing dangerous discoveries, and humans, including Commander Ji-Hoon Kim. "You are wondering why we asked you here specifically," Hana began. "It is because each of you has proven you can keep secrets. You can hold knowledge without speaking it. You can work in shadows without seeking recognition." She brought up a holographic display. It showed the galaxy, with markers indicating human colonies, Federation worlds, and the path the Krethax had taken through known space. "The Krethax are not our enemy. They are victims, just like the Tormach, just like the 400 million humans who died 80 years ago." She paused. "The Krethax were once a great civilization. They spanned 20 star systems. They had technology that made Federation science look primitive. They mapped the void between galaxies. They searched for other intelligent life. They wanted to know if they were alone in the universe." Everyone in the room was completely silent, barely breathing. 10,000 years ago, they found out they were not alone. Something answered their search. Something noticed their observation. Something came for them. Hana's voice was steady, but her eyes were haunted. "They have been running ever since. 20 star systems reduced to a few dozen ships, a population of billions reduced to millions. They flee because they cannot hide. They are too visible, too noticed, too remembered." The Vexthor commander spoke quietly. "And if we make ourselves visible, we become like them. Hunted, running. Never safe." "Yes, What are these things? The Kelsar elder asked. These entities in the void, are they alive? Are they machines? Are they something else entirely? Hana hesitated. Then she made a decision. These people needed to understand enough to do their jobs, even if full knowledge was dangerous. They are old, older than any civilization we know. They existed before the first stars formed. They move through the void between galaxies, feeding on something we do not fully understand. Maybe they feed on energy, maybe they feed on consciousness, maybe they feed on the act of observation itself. We do not know. Are they intelligent? Someone asked. We think so, but their intelligence is so different from ours that we cannot communicate with it. Imagine trying to negotiate with a force of nature, with gravity or time. That is what they are. Not evil, not hostile, just fundamentally incompatible with observed existence. Commander Ji-hoon stood up. Doctor, you said we do not fully understand what they feed on. Does that mean we have some understanding? Hana nodded slowly. When we went dark 80 years ago, when we shut down our quantum arrays and stopped broadcasting into space, we also stopped something else. We stopped paying attention to them. We stopped thinking about them collectively. We stopped talking about them. And when we did that, they seemed to forget about us. Attention feeds them, the Zix researcher said suddenly. The more we observe them, the more we study them, the more we give them to feed on. Observation is food. That is our best theory, Hana confirmed, which is why this briefing is dangerous. Why speaking about them is dangerous. Why even knowing they exist is dangerous. Thought and attention may be enough to sustain them, to remind them we are here. The room went cold with understanding. So we can never truly defeat them, the Kelsar elder said. We can only hope they forget about us. Yes. The Vexthor commander's crystalline body was dim, a sign of deep thought. Dr. Choi, humanity made a choice 80 years ago. You chose to hide rather than fight. You chose to become small rather than prove you were strong. For a species as young as yours, that shows remarkable wisdom. It was not wisdom, Hana said quietly. It was desperation. We tried fighting. We lost 400 million people in 3 days. Then we tried hiding, and we lost no one else. The lesson was clear. She looked around the room at all of them. The Federation spent 50,000 years as the dominant force in this galaxy. You never met anything stronger than you. You never had to hide. You never had to be afraid. You thought you were the apex predators. We were wrong, the Vexthor said. Everyone is wrong eventually. The universe is bigger and stranger than any of us can imagine. Things exist that do not care about our pride or our power. Things that treat civilizations like we treat insects. Not with cruelty, just with indifference. She turned off the holographic display. Your job in the Silent Watch is to keep the Federation invisible. When a species starts researching dangerous topics, you stop them. When someone wants to map the void, you redirect them. When anyone starts asking too many questions about what happened to the Tormach, you give them a gentle reminder to stay quiet. And if they refuse, Ji-hoon asked, then you do what is necessary to protect the many from the curiosity of the few. Hana's face was hard. I know that sounds harsh. I know it goes against everything the Federation represents, but the alternative is extinction. Complete, final, inevitable. After the briefing ended, Ambassador Min Jun met with the Vexthor commander one last time. They stood together in an observation dome, looking up at the stars. You asked me once what makes humanity special, Min Jun said. You wanted to know why we were different from other Federation species. I remember. We are not stronger. We are not smarter. We do not have better technology or greater courage. Min Jun pointed up at the vast darkness between the stars. We are special because we remembered the first lesson that life teaches. We remembered that survival matters more than pride. that being invisible is sometimes better than being important, that the universe is full of things that do not care about us, and the best we can do is avoid their attention. The Vex Thor was quiet for a long moment. My species led this federation for 50,000 years because we were the strongest, the wisest, the most advanced. Now I understand that we survived not because we were superior, but because we were lucky. We never attracted the wrong attention. We never looked in the wrong direction. We never asked the wrong questions. Until now. Until now! The ancient being turned to look at Min Jun. And you saved us by teaching us fear, by showing us that ignorance can be protection, by refusing to give us the knowledge that would have doomed us. We saved you by teaching you to disappear, Min Jun corrected gently. The Federation is still here. Your species still exist. Your civilization continues. You just do it quietly now, carefully, always aware that the darkness might not be empty. They stood together in silence, human and ancient alien, looking up at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, things moved. Things that noticed observation, things that fed on attention, things that humanity had learned to hide from. And now the Federation had learned the same lesson. The galaxy continued its quiet work. Ships traveled between stars. Colonies grew. Children were born and grew old. Life went on as it always did. But it went on quietly, carefully, always watching the darkness without looking too closely. And in the shadows of the galaxy, humans worked alongside their alien allies, keeping watch over the silence. Not as conquerors or heroes, not as saviors or leaders, just as guardians, teaching the galaxy what humanity had learned the hard way. Sometimes the best way to survive is to never be noticed at all. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the wisdom to be afraid of the right things. The Federation had learned both lessons now, and they would survive because of it. Quietly, invisibly, forever watchful of the ancient hunger that moved through the empty spaces between the stars. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not weapons or technology or knowledge, just the simple, terrible wisdom of knowing when to hide.